Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Light Investor, broadcasting from Peoria Heights.
A bit of a reprieve here for the month of August, but it's been a busy summer.
Busy summer. You had a good
Time
summer?
to get back to work on the YouTube channel. I did. How have you been? It's good to see you again.
Great summer. I have a kid off to college right now. I've got a kid I got a new kid driving.
Wow. Yeah.
So I've had to save a lot to make all that stuff happen. So you want to talk about savings today?
That's the topic, right?
That's
Savings.
the topic.
Let's do it.
Does the U.S. have a savings crisis? Here's what we're going to talk about our story today. Number one, let's take a look at the United States savings rate over time. This is like the typical American. How much do they actually save, and is it enough? Does savings cause wealth, or does wealth cause savings? I think you kind of know that answer. It's a bi-directional relationship, but let's take a look at that. Mike and I are going to talk about recommended sort of emergency fund levels for our individual, or are you a stock, are you a bond? And then lastly, what are some things you can do to save maybe a little bit more in your life, as it's very important, right?
Sure.
So anyways, Alan Greenspan says without savings, there is no future, and that's for a country and for an individual. And let's just get right into it. So let's take a look at the U.S. savings rate over time. And what do you think the savings rate has done over the years, over the decades that maybe you've been live? I've been 50 years old.
Yeah.
What's going on with the savings rate?
Well, it's going down, right? But, unfortunately, I think it's because a lot of middle America is getting squeezed, too. But
that's true.
And it's easier to live for today than tomorrow.
That's true.
Right.
So
Feels good.
Even though Americans were getting squeezed in the 70s, I was born in 1972, they were saving 15%. Today, and we're saving 5%. And I know it jumped a little bit. You can see here on this graph that jumped a little bit during the COVID months and years because people couldn't get out. But the problem was, Mike, the long downward trend is still there. We're just saving.
Well, and you mentioned
less.
5, and the recommended rate for us when we're doing planning for people, or especially if we're enrolling people in 401ks or just getting started in savings, is we're telling you people, 15% is your goal. Now you don't have to start there, but your goal is to get to there, even if you have to start at 5 and increase it 1% a year. But 15% is the rule of thumb.
Yep, and even more would be great, especially when you're starting.
If you're later and you're behind.
Yep, think about this, folks. If you're so young, that power of compounding is great. So if you can, huge, yeah. So definitely, savings rate is a problem in America, and we're just not saving enough. And so number two, does wealth cause savings or savings cause wealth? Here's a great quote by Plutarch. He says, "An imbalance between rich and poor is the oldest, most fatal elements of all republics." So what we have here is a great analysis of who saves in America. Is it the top 1%, top 10%, middle class, or bottom 90%? And you can see here, this graph, this is from Sayes and Zuckman. They're economists,
right.
Famous guys. And you can see here the top 1%, does wealth cause savings or savings cause wealth? They save 40% of their income, Mike.
Well, I think that's kind of what I alluded to earlier, though. It's easier, right? When you got extra, it's easy to save.
Yeah.
But when you're really getting squeezed, it's hard. And I have empathy for those people. But the key is really you got to make a plan and you've got to do something. You can't just ignore it.
Can I give you a little pushback on that?
Yes.
So watch this. I don't know if you can believe these numbers, but in China, they save 40 to 45% as a nation.
Wow. Well,
so
it's this cultural thing.
Well, yeah. So why can these lower income individuals save more, yet Americans say, I'm getting squeezed, and I've got air conditioning and cable.
We got Starbucks.
I got Starbucks.
$6 Frappuccino.
Yeah.
Seriously. I see a lot of people at Starbucks and they're buying those $6 Frappuccinos, and quite frankly, they shouldn't be there. Go to McDonald's and get the $1.50 slurry or whatever they got at McDonald's.
Yeah,
just save some money,
Go for the cheap one, make it at home,
So that's
right?
a good point. That's a good pushback. I appreciate that.
So one thing to consider also is the bottom 90% of our country, they are saving essentially zero. And there were negative savings rates during the Great Recession. And so
that's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people. So why is this income inequality an issue? It's a lot of things, but part of it's their savings is not keeping up. And so we're going to get to some things on what you can do to save more, right, here in this video.
Well, and especially when you think about it, in the old days, people had pensions. And even for people with a good job, the pensions have gone away, and it's all been basically down to the 401k and the IRAs, and it's your responsibility to control your own destiny.
Has that mainly been good for your business, but maybe bad for
my
like
business.
households?
You mean, how about the industry, you mean?
Yeah, has it been good for the industry?
I'm
But
sure
bad
it's
for
really
like,
good for the
typical
industry. I don't know if it's good for
household?
the consumer because you
Yeah.
know we don't want to go off on that tangent.
I
But
know,
I
I'm
mean,
just
unfortunately, there's just a
asking.
lot of stuff sold to people that's meant to be sold and not
Yeah.
purchased. But
Yeah,
we'll do that. We do
Yeah.
that somewhere else. Yeah.
yeah. We actually that's gonna be a
So
great
it's probably
one.
good for the industry, but I
Yeah.
don't know if it's good for the individual.
So, we're going to talk about recommended emergency funds here in a second, but one of the things I just pulled off the website today from CNBC was that, what do you think the average American has in their, what fraction of Americans can spend like $1,000 on an emergency? Like, we just had a hail come
Right.
through our neighborhood and getting some trouble with my insurance company. They don't want to pay, kind of making the lures upset, but what fraction, if you have $1,000 deductible, what fraction of Americans can meet that $1,000 deductible right now?
Well, I just cheated and looked at your screen. So, but
Yeah,
I mean, you
not
see that.
much.
I mean, you see those numbers quoted
Yeah.
often, though.
Yeah.
And it's really sad.
It's really sad. And yeah, so we got some, we need to help each other.
56%. by the
Yeah,
way.
56%
You look for the
can't.
answers. I
Yeah.
got the number. Yeah.
This guy's got all the answers,
Yeah,
folks.
but leaning over your computer.
Yeah,
There.
yeah.
Yeah.
The next thing we'll take a look at is savings by. How are you doing with regards to your savings by age? Like, how much do you have in your balance, your savings account? So if you're 35 years old, the median, so that would be like the person who's like number 50th percent, has $3,240. But the mean, which is kind of pulled up by those wealthier 35-year-olds, has 11,250
The average.
on average.
Yes.
So if you can see that over time, like the amount in your balance savings account the balance in your savings account goes up, but not as much as you think it would for the median. So for
Right.
example, like we were talking about one of your clients or prospective clients, maybe age 70, they, how much do they have in their savings account? And the median, they only have 9,300, Mike.
Wow.
And the mean is 55,320. So how are you doing? Are you above that, ladies and gentlemen? I'm 50. Do I have more than the median or the mean? So how are you doing on
Well,
that?
and I think that next slide, the data from Fidelity put this together just to show
Yeah.
if you want to take a look at where you think you need to be, how are you doing? I mean, they put this is just a real quick napkin look at the numbers. I mean, they basically what they're doing there is they're assuming that you started saving 15%, including whatever your employer match is at 25. Assumes you're going to work till 67, and they assume that you invest at least half of it in equities diversified
right.
portfolio to grow the money. And then you just take a look at your factors of how much have you saved. So if you're age 30, it's 1 times. If you're age 45, it's 4 times your salary. And then by the time you're 67, you need to have 10 times your salary to retire.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good ballpark thing to look at.
Yep, and you won't get to 10 times if you don't save. I mean,
And early, like you said, with
And
the
early.
compounding, right?
With the-
That's the thing is early. I mean, we should have probably I think we've shown that in a past episode. Unfortunately, I don't know it on top of my head which one it is. But I mean, if you look at the compounding, the benefit of that is powerful. If you save sooner, you don't have to save as much, but you got to save sooner.
So
Which
Mike,
is tough to do.
yeah. So how I have friends, and you have friends, you have clients, you've got relatives. How do you get people to? What are some recommendations for you that have worked to actually get people to change their habits on saving? What are some things that you would, there's things you can do.
Well, for me with clients, I think how I do it is you give them if you're running the numbers and you're seeing if they're going on track to achieve their goals. Now, when we're working with individuals that are clients through a 401k where we're educating them and we're not really managing their portfolio, providing the investment options, so you kind of do the same thing. You provide them tools that they can at least model to see where am I based on where I want to be, and hopefully that motivates people. But if you don't ever take a look at that and you just get to the end and go, nah, let's make it work backwards, it's pretty tough backing into your number when you're done working.
Exactly. I think the number, like the visualization of that number, that's a big
kind of
deal.
Take a little time to think about that.
Yeah, and like what fraction of the people you ever came across have like a planned out investment strategy or a budget?
Right.
Like
what are you going to spend when you retire?
Yeah, what are you going to spend when you retire?
Yeah.
So, anyways, folks, any more last thoughts here, Mike? I mean, on savings and the importance of.
I mean, that all comes back to the fact, again, what we just alluded to, though, is, every one of these topics, when you're talking about financial stuff, is in the end, do you have a plan? Have you thought about it? You gotta have a plan.
Be an adult, folks. Have a plan.
And you got to be proactive on your plan. You can come up with it, but if you aren't proactive around it and you just ignore it, I mean, it's just wasted time.
Well, it's been great talking to you here today,
good to
buddy.
be back.
Yeah, good to be back. We're going golfing on Friday.
Yes.
We'll see how we do.
We'll get that new putter out.
Get the new putter out. Hasn't filmed yet.
Oh, hey, wait a minute. I got it.
Oh, you got some.
You know how I am on books. So we organized the bookcase upstairs at the library. And I found this little book. I'm always buying books off of Amazon. I'm sure I bought this a long time ago. But I thought we'd add this to our every episode. We'll just do one quote. It's a book of Wall Street wit and wisdom, a collection of savvy investment tips, clever quotes, and humorous cartoons. So I just randomly pulled a page here, and it's got a quote from Benjamin Graham. You know Benjamin Graham. He basically taught Buffett how to be a good investor, right? Mm-hmm. Here's a good quote from him. Every investor should be prepared financially and psychologically for the possibility of poor short-term results. I think it's kind of a timely one to pull right now. Yeah, for example, in 1973-74, the decline, the investor would have lost money on paper, but if he held on and stuck with that approach, he would have recouped in 1975 and 1976 and gotten his 15% average return for the next 5-year period. Benjamin Graham.
Benjamin Graham.
Have a good day.
Have a good day, folks. Like and subscribe. Enlightened Investor Team, sign off.